Talk about a not probably very positive topic, gene editing, but I think it's really important that everybody's informed of what's going on in the CFIA new proposals and where we're going with that. And at the end of my little presentation, I'm going to ask us all to do some arts and crafts. So this is a really, really basic definition of what is gene editing. So genetic editing, or genetic engineering techniques that alter genetic material of plants, animals, and microbes. Most often the techniques use DNA cutters guided to a location with an organism's DNA and used to cut the DNA. And then because human bodies or plants are so amazing, what happens when that cut is made, it starts to repair itself. And that's why it's called doing an edit. And here, for folks who are visual, that's what the process looks like. And it's a really big thank you to CBAN for all of the amazing work that they are doing and have been doing for years on this topic and so many others related to GMOs. And so why does this matter? In this audience, I don't think I have to talk about this too much, but why does this matter to organic farmers? Well, because when we reviewed our standard the last time, we said that any technique like genome or gene editing is equivalent to an organism being genetically engineered, or as sometimes commonly known as a GMO, so it is not allowed in our standard or in our production method. And so the CFIA wants to change the rules, so without changing the regulation. So in 2021, they started a consultation on some proposed new guidance of Part 5 of the Seeds Act, which would relinquish federal government regulatory authority over some seeds produced using gene editing techniques, abandon its responsibility for environmental safety assessments, and allow companies to put these new GM seeds on the market without a mandatory registry or notification to the public or farmers. So what does this mean for organic farmers? So if we don't have a mandatory registry, you won't know what seeds you're buying. You won't be able to meet the core requirements to ensure seed is non-GM. And you won't be able to implement the risk mitigation measures that you need to protect your crops from GM contamination. It's like this. So the plot thickens. So this proposed new guidance was leaked to an investigative reporter in Montreal. And when they looked at that proposed new guidance, they looked at the metadata, and they found that the document was actually authored by the head of biotechnology for crop life. So, I mean, the CFIA is saying, well, this isn't actually the case, that, you know, they participated in its production, but they weren't the author, but that's not what it looks like to us. So as a result of that, the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Bibeau, did an interview with a radio program in Quebec, and she announced that the organic sector should be assured that that she's issued high-level guidelines or guarantees to her people, to her staff, to guarantee traceability for these new GMOs. And so then, after the minister's statement, the AAFC, her staff, convened a meeting between the biotechnology lobby, meaning CropLife, Grains Canada, Seeds Canada, and representatives from the organic sector across Canada, including our national organizations, CODA, OFC, and COG, and also there were representatives from a number of provincial organizations as well. And at this meeting, what the biotech lobby groups were telling us is that they have developed what they're calling a voluntary transparency database, and they were presenting it to the organic sector as a solution for our need for a mandatory database to record these seeds. And the reason that we need a mandatory database is so that it stays within the control of the CFIA and within their regulatory reach, and not be allowed to, so that corporations can't basically control control the process. And so, stating very boldly, a voluntary transparency database owned and operated by the companies that sell GMO seeds and synthetic pesticides is not a solution for organic farmers. And so I think for me too, there's a through line here with Christy's talk, and then I was in the Seeds on the Organic Prairies session earlier this morning, and this idea of corporate capture has become, you know, we kind of know that it's going on, especially with the CFIA and perhaps the PMRA, that the lines are very blurred between the biotech lobbies and government officials, and not only in the meetings when they're talking, but also there's a lot of people who either work for biotech companies and then go work for the CFIA, or go work for the CFIA and then go work for biotech companies. So there's a real, almost like integration of those interests at that level. So Sask Organics and the Organic Agricultural Protection Fund Committee, who have been doing this work for over 20 years on GMO and making sure that it stays out of our food and our farming systems, have been working really hard with CBAN and our partners across Canada to try and slow down or stop the publishing of this proposed new guidance. And we have been successful so far. They were supposed to, or they thought they were going to publish in September, but then the investigative journalist, their article was published, and there was a lot of action around that, and it still hasn't been published. And we have asked the AAFC and the CFIA to come back to the organic sector with a solution. So rather than coming to us to ask for what the solution is, we've given them all the information. They need to come back to us and really tell us how they're going to make good on the minister's statement that nothing will be implemented that could negatively impact organic farmers. And so there is so much more information about this. If you go to the CBAN site or you go to the Sask Organics site, you can find all kinds of information on the technology itself and on the various consultations and responses to consultations that organizations have been submitting. But what I would really love, and I would love, my goal, I don't know if we still have 200 people in the room, but my goal is to get everyone in the room to do some arts and crafts now so that we can all send a seed packet to the Minister of Agriculture that outlines our needs and the problems with the solutions that are being presented by the biotech lobby so that we can have a whole bunch of them delivered to her all at once. And so on your tables, you're going to find a letter, which really goes through in much more detail what I briefly touched on today, and then some suggested wording, which I'll also put up on the screen, that we would like you to write into the thank you card that you will find on your table. And then we would also like you to include this seed packet, which is also on your table, into the thank you card. They're already addressed, and so what we will do is if you just fill it out, leave it on your table, and we'll come around and collect it, and then we're going to mail them all at once in the hope that they kind of all arrive at once. And the reason that we worked with CBAN on coming up with this seed packet is that we've had numbers of letter writing campaigns and emailing campaigns and those sorts of things, and we wanted something that the minister could hold or her staff could hold in their hand and get a whole stack of them there. So that's, again, just a little description, the thank you card, the seed packet, and there's some suggested wording. There's also some, the same wording is in the letter that is on your, in this letter that is on your table. So you can have a little look at that, and we'll leave this one up on the screen as well. So I'm not sure what time it is. I'm not sure if there are questions that you want to ask now, or you just come up to me at any point and ask me if you have some questions. The other thing that I would like to put a little plug in for is this kind of advocacy and fundraising, or this kind of advocacy work always takes money to do. And so the OAPF every year annually does a donation letter, and this is also part of that campaign. So if you do want to support the continued work on stopping the publishing of the proposed new guidance, we would be ever so grateful for a donation. And there's all the information on the back of the form on how to do that. We have been informed by, thank you so much, one person has already sent an e-transfer, but what they did say was that for their banking app, the answer to the question OAPF is too short. So if you just put Sask Organics in instead of OAPF, it'll work, and I'll know what the money is for. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you in advance for taking action and writing those letters, and so that we can send them into the minister. So thank you so much.